Hello, welcome.
Hello.
It's directly to you. It's episode 239? Question mark.
Very question mark, because does last week's episode count or not?
Oh no, that doesn't count. Is last week 238?
238 was last week. So
okay, so it's episode 238. We're episode 238.
Okay.
It's our podcast. It's the thing that we do. I am AJ, part of that we. I'm joined by Parker, also part of that we. The what of that we is redirect us together collectively. That's who we are, and we'll explain more of that stuff after we actually get into the show. The show though, we're talking about freaking Tears of the Kingdom. We talked about Tears of the Kingdom last week in the episode that we recorded last week, but
true.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, guys?
Yeah. It was lost to the sands of time.
It's so bad because we got some stuff right, man. That's all I want to say. Something that I do want to maybe we can jump off into it, because it's a little small idea, and then we can go overall on the thing that we saw in the thing and whatnot. So and the promo images that they released for this game, not with this one, but before the last round of Tears of the Kingdom, it still exists. They had that Target render concept art ish thing of Zelda, of girl Zelda, and she has the Sheikah Slate, but we don't see anything about the Sheikah Slate.
Okay,
so,
I have thoughts on this. Do you have thoughts on this as well? Or do you just have more the question of? So,
I mean, we can discuss your thoughts, but I do want to say that I if they don't do playable Zelda, I think it's super easy to do playable Zelda.
If they're going to do it,
because then it's playable Zelda could be the gameplay of Breath of the Wild, and then this is with Boy Zelda is Tears of the Kingdom. He has 100%. The Ultra Hand or whatever,
Literally, yeah. So Mitch was over yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, did you get to watch the footage for Tears of the Kingdom?" He said, "Yeah." And he was like, "What do you think about do bombs do bombs come back and the Sheikah Slate kind of stuff?" And I was like, "Here's my thought. He doesn't have the Sheikah Slate, but I'm pretty sure in what we've seen, Zelda has it, which you just confirmed that she did. I couldn't remember for sure, but I was pretty sure.
I made the thumbnail. I can send it to you right now.
Nice.
This was something I was thinking beforehand, but then I was oh wait, I already made one with the new render for Boy Zelda. So I don't want to use that again. And I was like, oh wait, I can just use that one. So here we are, everybody.
So my thought was that it's your Link in the things that he's doing, and then Zelda falls to the underground or whatever, and that she's in theoretically the underground, and you have playable sections, at least for the beginning, as her, where she gets to use bombs and Sheikah Slate stuff and all that, and Link's doing his stuff with the magic arm stuff, and then at some point they come back together, and in some way you can use them in conjunction, swap between them, who's to say, something, but then maybe go to the other locations for each of them and get to interact with go to the sky and interact with the world.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. How do these things now interact one with each other? So I think the thing that I would say is, in some ways that feels to me a little ambitious, and that it's they wouldn't do that. But to be honest, Fuse is the most ambitious thing I could think of.
Right.
I would have, if you couldn't pay me money to have said beforehand, for sure, they'll just make it that any item that you can interact with in the world can join together with some other item and make a new thing. Because I'd have been like, there's too many things. That can't do that.
I don't know. And I feel like that's the kind. And it's so frustrating because we kind of flirted with that idea where this is just an evolution of what Breath of the Wild's whole thing was, which was how things interact with each other in the world around them.
Yes.
This is just that exponentially increased, so it's there's stuff we'll get to it in the Q&A, but people are like, well, what happens when you fuse that with that? And it's funny because so Bob, I don't know how far he got in it because I was like, I gotta go. He was playing Breath of the Wild, and he only got halfway through the game initially, like when he first played through it, because it's like Zelda is very not a Bob game. And he was like, I'm just gonna go from where I'm at and try to beat Ganon. And there's just certain things that like watching him try to even get to Ganon was so frustrating because he like simultaneously overthinks it and doesn't think about it enough, and it's very strange to me. And I just thought that everybody had like a similar thing of like, well, this whole game, like the whole like appeal that they're trying to sell to us is that the game doesn't tell you no. It's I wonder if I can do this, and the game's like, yeah, you can do that. But watching him in like around like the Elden Ring times talking to Sardi, some people just don't ask those questions, and they just assume like, I've played video games before. Video games don't usually let me do this, so I'm not even going to try. So with that, where I'm like, he'll be in a situation where he was on the carts, the carts that like you can put what he did specifically on those metal carts on the rails was his first thought was to use stasis and hit it. My first thought was, this has a curved like back to the cart. Clearly I'm supposed to put a bomb in this, right? Put the bomb in there, it yeets you. I put that in chat. I'm like, yo, put the bomb in it. And then people are like, I don't know if that's going to work. You might get hit. And then Bob was like, am I not going to get hit? I'm like, just put the bomb in there. And it was too late. He already did the thing where he did stasis and he hit it. And I was like, I've literally never seen anybody do that before. Which is like, I mean, that's the game. But then other people in the chat were like, I've literally never seen anybody do the bomb thing. And to me, it feels like the bomb thing is the like thing that they wanted you to do. Like,
sure, yeah.
Stasis makes sense. But it seems, well, it makes sense in a Breath of the Wild kind of way. But it definitely seems like what they think your first thought would be the bomb. In fact, I think they might even tell you, like, outright to use the bomb.
I think the funny thing is, I think the stasis thing is the first thing that somebody now in the Twitter context of us would think of, only because we've seen so many people like
speedrunners and
Breath of the
like
Wild is just exactly like people doing like stasis something, do something like that's just like such a common mechanic now in the way that we see people do these like crazy tricks or whatever. But yeah, 100%. Like it's got, like you said, a little funnily thing that is made to drop a little bomb into, and then it yeets you, and like that's definitely the way you're supposed to do it. But it is funny how like nowadays
people are like, you can do that. Like I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I knew, like, I guess not, like, consciously. Like, I don't actively think about, like, you can probably do it with stasis. It just is a waste of time to do it with stasis, because I got to hit it multiple times to get it as fast as I wanted to go to the thing, whereas I just put the bomb in the thing and I blow up the bomb and then I yeet over there. So it's like, it's something that I knew, sure, because I understand how those two mechanics interact. But it's just not something that I actively would have thought to do. And I think that, like, it's funny because this game, Tears of the Kingdom, is doing a way better job just with this one mechanic at making people think like that. Where it's like, I wonder what happens if I put this with this. Breath of the Wild kind of did it in the or it allowed for it in that like vehicle kind of way, where it's like they realize, oh, people are using like the runes and stuff to make like flying vehicles. What if we actually like
or like octoballoons
actively enable that? Yeah, exactly. What if we actively enable that? And that makes people think like, oh, well, I can probably do this and that and this, because they're not giving you like blocks that are just regular blocks and telling you build a house. They're giving you Lego blocks that interlock with each other, so you feel like, oh yeah, okay, this is how this connects to this, because there's like grooves to it. It's like, oh, well, clearly this fits in that. Instead of having you fill that gap. But to fill the gap between us talking about the larger information that we received, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. You can support our channel by going to youtube.com/watchredirect or twitch.tv/watchredirect and giving $4.99 of your money or Jeff Bezos' money if you have a Prime subscription. You link it to your Twitch account. You get a free Amazon Prime Gaming Twitch sub on them. You just got to remember to do it. That's all you got to do. And in exchange for that, whether it's your money or Jeffy B's money, you get access to supporters only Discord. We record this show live with video, and you get to talk to us in the chat. You get loyalty badges, you get free Switch keys from time to time, and you get freaking Patreon perks. You can check out our Patreon to see what you get for those different dollar levels. On Patreon, it's technically a little cheaper because you can't get the emotes. So on Patreon, you get like access to this podcast and when we record it for $4, but a Twitch subscription, which you would still be able to do that, is $5. So if you just want the podcast and you don't care about the emotes or watching on Twitch, do it through Patreon. If you want the emotes and stuff like that, you can subscribe on Twitch, whether it's with your money or Jeffy B money, and then just pay the difference between that and the $8 for the $8 rewards and stuff like that, if that's what you want to. Basically, what I'm saying is our rewards stack with regardless of the platform that you're on. I think that's all the housekeeping. We did a Patreon podcast also. Speaking of that,
we did. It just went up today.
It just went up.
We did it last week, and it took me this long to put it up, but it's there.
And there's a backlog of those. You can listen to those. I think that they age pretty well. You know, like we have some stuff that's like when we first relaunched the channel and stuff like that. But like either way, it's like a time capsule of like what we think of like the Marvel stuff and like different Nintendo topics and stuff like that. But anyways, back to Zelda. We're here.
Yeah, we sure are. So yeah, they on Monday they were like, hey, we're gonna show 10 minutes of gameplay for Tears of the Kingdom. So on Tuesday we saw that 10 minutes. Here's, before we get into the details too, what are your thoughts on is it this and the context or the concept of spoilers for the game? I've seen people say something like, hey, I don't want anybody talking about anything from that gameplay video because that's all spoilers. And I get not wanting to see it. Absolutely. I get being like, I don't want to watch anything. Like, I just want to go to the game fresh. That totally makes sense. I think on the other hand, I feel like calling it spoilers in a like, hey, you're not allowed to talk about that kind of way.
It's disingenuous.
Since it's publicly released information, is like, no, we can talk about it. It's fine to talk about it. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on it. What do you think on that front?
I mean, I agree. I do think that, like, in a sense, like, in the sense that like, knowing stuff like this, I think impacts the experience of playing through the game in a negative way. Not in like an act, like it does it. It's not like the game's gonna suck now or whatever, right? But I do think it is cooler to learn about gameplay mechanics by playing the video game, especially with a game like this. Where that is like actively meant to be part of the fun, and in moments like that where it's like you almost feel like you figured something out that nobody else knows. You know, how sick would it have been if that was just left to the community? But like, oh shoot, if I attach this eye to this arrow, it homes onto the you know, like that's way cooler than them being like, look at this. You know, I think that's less interesting, but.
And we're still going to find out like all of the detailed parts of that ahead of time, but we do now have 6 weeks to speculate on connections and like what'll this do and that kind of thing that kind of does lessen the impact of that for sure.
Right, but I will also say I don't think that is a good substitute, you know? Like I'd rather like have that information and experiment in the game than to aimlessly be like, well, if that does that, I wonder if that does that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like I'm saying it's worse to have speculated about it in some ways because then it's like you have 6 weeks that you're like thinking about it instead of getting to like, oh, I can do this.
I thought you were saying, but back to back. We still have that, you know. Like,
no, it's other way around. I agree. Yeah, it being fresh moment to moment is definitely better than having like considered all the combination of things. Even though I'm sure there's still going to be tons of things that are fresh combinations that it's like, whoa, didn't think you could do that, or you know whatever. still it's lessened knowing about it ahead of time for sure.
Right. Exactly. And I still contend that I don't think they had to reveal that. Like, obviously it's marketing and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. I think Breath of the Wild is all the marketing that Tears of the Kingdom needs. Literally that's it. And I think that like the pre-orders and like all that stuff, like it beating the we talked about how like that's not as true. Impressive as like people are making it seem, but like I don't think that they needed to market this game in the way that they market games in the past or have marketed or they market even Breath of the Wild, you know, because Breath of the Wild didn't have Breath of the Wild and Zelda wasn't what Zelda is now back then. In the same way that like Pokemon with Scarlet and Violet revealed next to nothing, and even they, I think, revealed a little bit too much. Not in a like it spoiled my experience, but in a way where it's like, well, you revealed more than you had to. And I think for something like this and like movies or whatever, it's like reveal as much as you feel like you have to make people want to engage with the thing. And I mean people broadly. Because obviously there's exceptions to all of that. There's some people that's like, well, I want to see gameplay of any game before I don't really care about that person. Like they can see gameplay on their own time when they want to see the gameplay. I think that like overall, I think most people, whether they know it or not, would enjoy the experience more if they were just able to just go into it and learn the thing, you know? And the people that need to see gameplay before they play the game, they can be catered to without the other people that don't feel like that being quote unquote spoiled on their experience, right? Like you can't put the genie back in the bottle, but you can take the genie out whenever you want to, you know? So I think it's way easier for it to be an opt-in than an opt-out kind of situation. And I'm sure those people can argue like, well, just don't watch it and blah, blah. It's like, okay, that's easier said than done. One, I mean, obviously this is a very specific scenario, but like I can't not watch it. If I didn't want to, I wish. But even if I didn't like actively go and watch it myself, people are going to be talking about it and stuff. And then we run into the situation that we're talking about now, where it's like it's spoilers and blah blah. And if you feel like that, whatever. But like because it was publicly available, you kind of just can't. You're just like not really allowed to have that, and it'd be like a realistic take. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, especially if you want to be part of the, I don't know, like excitement and the lead up to the game, you would have to fully separate, which I mean, you totally can, but it's hard, I'm sure.
You can
to, like,
if the people that are like they're in on it, you know, like they also know that like you still want to like take part in the like lead up to the game or whatever, but you don't want to know the stuff that you don't that isn't already like revealed in like teasers or the like the initial thing, like back when it was like the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you know. Like that was the only thing that was like, I'm not going to say like non-negotiable, because you could see that it was starting to be revealed and you're like, I don't want to see this, and you could leave. But I think that that's a little too much, because like those first trailers before we knew the name of the game or whatever, like they didn't really tell you anything other than the fact that it's like, yep, same engine, yep, kind of looks like more or less like the same game, you know, aesthetically. But
yeah, I mean, and on that topic, then let's dive into some of it. So I guess first of all, that's one thought that I've heard people a little bit talk about is like, well, it looks a lot like Breath of the Wild. I mean, obviously, or even a similar topic of like there's like similar music or like sound effects or whatever. And I think that's an interesting criticism because first of all, looks wise, like yes, it does artistically look, you know, exactly the same, other than like there's new things in it that look different and unique because they're their own things. But like just in terms of what the art style looks like obviously it's going to look the same because it's, you know, it's the same game and it's the same world, or it's not the same game, sorry, but it's the same world. The one thing though is like, I mean, people have pointed out in terms of just performance and like the part that we'll talk about later, but like when Link falls from Skyrule and down to Hyrule, and like it does not skip a beat the whole time. It's like perfect, frame rate or whatever. Whereas like in Breath of the Wild, if you did the like bomb things or like where you eat yourself with bombs really, really fast, the speedrunners do. Right. Like that kind of thing. The world like hiccups a ton just trying to catch up.
Yeah, and so increased draw distance in this game and all that stuff.
Yeah, all sorts of things where it's like, yes, it looks the same, but it like runs better because this, that, or the other. So like that stuff, I think that's great. And then similarly with the bit with the sound effects and the music, it's tricky because in some ways I do want different music in certain areas or whatever. But at the same time, it's like this is that same is that same world.
Right.
So like what, I want there to be new music, but really I hope that there's just enough new areas that we'll just get to experience a bunch of new music, new scenarios that'll like trigger new music. But it makes sense that the same spots you've been to before, unless they're particularly different and you need to like emote differently because of it, where it's like this is, like you go back to Terrytown and it's destroyed. Suddenly it's the Terrytown theme, but sad or whatever. Like I could see that.
Right.
But otherwise, if it's just like the cold area music, which people pointed out that like, yeah, I mean, that's probably going to sound about the same as cold area music because it's the same world.
Yeah.
So,
like, there's no like active reason to change that. Like now if there's like new bosses, like mini bosses and stuff, or just regular bosses or whatever, right? Like, if that music is the same, then there's something to complain about. But
yes,
I guarantee you it will not be, like
right.
There will be new music for new scenarios.
Yep. Even the little battles with the constructs is new music as well, as opposed to Bokoblins or whatever. Right. So like 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Just grasping at straws to complain about stuff.
Yeah.
Which, like,
as far as things to be excited about, though, probably obvious, but of the things we saw, what are the things that you're most excited about?
I mean, I think it goes without saying. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with the Fuse situation.
100%.
The Fuse situation is going to be the thing that I probably spend the most time just messing with and seeing, like, different things and stuff like that. I don't want to go too far into like specific combinations because I don't know if they if they're brought up in the questions or not, and I don't want to like retread that. So we'll do that.
I mean, we could bring those questions up now if you'd rather, or we can wait for Q&A.
We could. If
sure. Mark asked, "What 2 items do you want to fuse the most in Tears of the Kingdom?"
The most. Well, I don't know what all the items are, so I can't really say like the most because I have no idea what items are going to be in the game. But I wonder if you can do. And it's
go for it.
I was just going to say, I wonder if you can like freaking fuse like diamond with stuff. Like if I can get a sword and I can fuse a diamond with it instead of fusing like the rock. I have the big rock on the stick. Yeah. I wonder if I can do that with a diamond. And then I'm playing Minecraft, like I'm like I don't have the Master Sword yet, but like I have a diamond hammer thing, and that's not going to break for forever if I can do that. You know what I mean? Like,
I like that. And it does seem like Fuse is specifically for swords and shields, and that's it. I'm pretty sure. Outside, and arrows, of course. I wonder. Similarly to that kind of is like
I don't know what.
But I think there's the Ultra Hand stuff, which is gluing all this stuff together. But I think the fusing bit specifically is sword, different. Shields, and arrows.
Right.
Unless, or that's all they've shown us, rather. Like, there could totally be more stuff than that, for all we know. But those seem to be the,
I forgot that they separated those mechanics as far as like what they
I didn't understand at first, but now it makes a little more sense. Yeah. And because it's the difference between gluing things together versus like combining things together, I guess,
Right. I guess then it's inaccurate for me to say that that's my favorite thing because I kind of like I those are the same thing in my head. The Ultra Hand thing and
totally.
the fusing thing, that's the same thing.
Yep.
So like that's also part of what I was saying when I was like, I'm just gonna spend so much time messing with that. And there's like stuff that like I still don't completely understand. Like I saw the Game Explain like mini analysis thing of like how it may work or whatever, but where they said like just turning off like the fan is what recharged the fan, but it looked more like to me, because I didn't like zoom into it, so I don't know for sure, but it looked more like to me it was being recharged when he like grabbed it, like with the hand, rather than it being turned off, because it like they grab it pretty immediately. So I think that again, unless I zoomed in and was like, oh, this moved like 2 pixels between when he grabbed it and when he turned it off or whatever. But it seemed more like it charged when it was like covered in like that green energy.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because to me it looked more like it was recharging just when it was turned off, but I didn't even think about the grabbing thing. So it could be that it's that. And the other bit that's interesting with that too is I hadn't watched an analysis because I was like, I'm going to hold off on watching these on the last trailer that we'd gotten. And then now I'll probably go back and watch it because I want to know. But the little like car thing that he's driving at some point, apparently there's a little like battery pack looking thing in the back that seems like there's the little motors maybe have, or the little like propellers have batteries of their own, but then also there's battery packs that then there was somewhere where they were showing there was a little battery icon in the mini map. And so like maybe those have a certain amount of charge, but then you'd have to bring them back to a place. So, and it's a nice thing where like going back to the climbing and stamina from Breath of the Wild, where there's a bit of a puzzle of like, can I actually get up there using this, that, or the other? Similarly, like the propellers having some amount of longevity to them means you can't just like go anywhere right from the start just because. You can go a lot of places, but you have to like figure out how to do it. And like instead of just like, well, I've got propellers, so I can just, it's like in Mario, if you get the cape and just fly over the whole level or something like that. Like you still have to think through how
actually play the video game.
Exactly. So
yeah.
As far as to answer the question for me of the what things do you want to fuse together the most, so I have 2 thoughts in different directions. One is I want to know if you can fuse, just like have a sword and then there's some fire over there and you fuse it with fire and can make like an elemental sword kind of thing. I assume because the like chew jelly and arrows and stuff that could work, but those are kind of like, it's more like you're shooting the chew jelly, it seems like. So, does that work the same as like I'm making a sword that's,
I mean, I would assume my thought would be like kind of like what happened with the shield when they hit the thing and then it like exploded and it was like all that smoke or whatever. Like you could do it with the sword, but it's like once you break the one-time chew jelly, that's the one and done. Like you did the slash.
That makes sense.
Kind of like when a weapon's about to break. But it's like an elemental version of that, and I would assume the weapon doesn't break after that specifically, unless you combine both. You're like, oh, my weapon's about to break, let me combine it with like an electric chew jelly and throw it, and then it's the double whammy of like the electric damage and also the like this weapon just broke, so it does a little bit of extra damage thing. I could see that being a thing.
That's fun. The other thought that I had, so elemental stuff on one side, also octo balloons were such an interesting thing in Breath of the Wild. I'm really curious if you could fuse, a sword with an octo balloon and just like what that would do, because I don't know, like I feel like not all these things are going to be an obvious one-to-one, like, oh, if you do this plus this, it'll just I
want to see
some of them might be a little bit sillier.
I want to see like like fusing octo balloon with like just maybe even it's a weapon that's about to break and there's a lightning storm and there's a flying enemy and you combine the sword with the balloon and then it flies up the thing and then the lightning strikes the thing and then it hits the weapon and also the flying enemy. That would be sick. That'd be so dope.
And I feel like even if that's not a thing that can like exactly happen per the way, like intentionally. I feel like there's a way you can make that happen no matter what. Like that's
because like
nice thing
if you
with these
can't combine
games,
the balloon with the sword itself, you can put the sword on a log.
Attach. I mean, you can already do that in Breath of the Wild. I guess.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah. Right.
So yeah, it's got a lot of. Pat Green asked, "Will we be able to fuse a chicken onto anything?" I saw somebody do a cuckoo with a shield fused with a cuckoo. Yeah, and it's like Link is invincible now. It's like
that's what I was about to say. Like chicken, like alive or food chicken. Which
also I mean could be.
I was gonna say
you can put meat on an arrow. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like. I think somebody said, I think that was another question.
Oh, yeah. Let asked, since they didn't answer this huge question for us in the Tears of the Kingdom footage, what happens when you fuse meat with an arrow?
What I want to happen is that it's like a version of the freaking like Yiga clan people with the bananas.
Yes.
Like I want it to be that, but I want it to be like more layered than that, where it's like, oh, this enemy is a vegetarian. So they're not down with the meat. Like they even get tight. Like they're mad that you put the meat in front of them. And then like like you kind of got to do the guessing game initially, or if you're cringe, you just look on like Zelda Wiki or something. But like you got to be like, oh, this enemy probably likes meat, and you freaking shoot the bow at them. Or
maybe you showed it. There's like two bokoblins and they fight each other and they kind of whittle down each other's health because they want the meat, because they're not vegetarian for sure. They love meat. And then Pat also asked, what will be the most overpowered weapon fusion and why? And I think AJ may have already said
the diamond,
honestly.
Man.
The diamond. If you could do that, I mean, you can fuse. It'll be really interesting to see what things you can and can't do, because this is the kind of mechanic where like if they implement it, but only to a limited degree, then you'll end up being disappointed more often than you'll be happy about it. And for that reason alone, I feel like they were just like, we'll come up with some kind of scenario that it'll work. It might not be as cool as you want it to be for this specific thing, but it'll still work in some way. And I feel like that'll be the case for a lot of things. And that's okay. So I tweeted about this the other day, but so here's a thought on like, people were like, yeah, it's neat that crafting is this in this game, because in other games you like have to slow down and do crafting and stuff.
It's also way more.
And
like
I compared it to, and it's always like, I mean, take for example, the opposite end of this, which you complained about yourself with good reason in, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, crafting TMs is annoying because you don't even know, like if you're like, I want to craft, Ice Fang or whatever, and it needs 3 things and you don't know what the third one is, either you look it up or you go and you just like beat up a bunch of ice Pokemon and hope for the best and be like, okay, yeah, that was, that was this material. But like most crafting things are a menu and it tells you what you're going to get and then tells you, or maybe you don't know, what ingredients you need to make that thing. Breath of the Wild with cooking, and now Tears of the Kingdom with fusing, is a lot more like Mario Maker, where you just kind of put 2 items together and like,
you'll get
you can
something.
Like shake an item, and just like something's probably gonna happen, and you try to put ingredients together and something happens from it, as opposed to it feels more like a MacGyver thing where it's like, all right, what do you got? Like
there's no wrong answers approach to crafting. Whereas like every other game that has crafting, there are wrong answers. It's like Arceus was the same way too, where it was like, I mean, I have a potion, and to make this a super potion, what item do I need? Like it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like what I was saying with Scarlet and Violet, where I wish it was just like, I mean, I wish that it's just one and done and you only had to do it once. But also I wish that it was just like, to get Ice Punch, you need to beat X amount of ice type Pokemon and X amount of fighting type Pokemon, rather than it being like, you have to beat X amount of Bexcabulars or whatever, right? Like it should be something that like, I don't have to know what the developers thought was the perfect Pokemon to represent this attack. It should be some way for me to independently come to the conclusion, whether it be an actual logical thing or like a logical thing based in like cartoon logic or whatever, which is usually the case with like Breath of the Wild. It should be something that I'm like, I wonder if it's this, and like realistically land on the right answer, you know, without having to look it up.
Yeah, I think, exactly. The more times that you have to look something up for a game, the less fun that is. And yeah, so this kind of thing is just a nice little thing. So going back to the Ultra Hand thing that you mentioned, last week, you and I talked about something that we thought would be really, really cool. And so I'm bringing it back up here because, again, lost of time. And that was that Terrytown was really, really cool. And it was neat that you got to like rebuild this little town, and we said, well, wouldn't it be cool if in Breath of the Wild, one of the things we're doing, in Tears of the Kingdom, one of the things we're doing as during the game or post game or something like that is you're basically like rebuilding Hyrule and, you know, have these quests to do, whatever that looks like. But that would be just a thing that you're taking part in. And from the footage, it definitely looks like that's happening. And that's very fun. A, because we got it right, but B, because we wanted it.
Yeah, there's
so
a reason why
we're happy that it's here.
Exactly. Like when we say like this would be like this probably could be a thing. It's not like we're not saying that to be right. We're saying that because we think it would be sick. And the fact that it's happening is like dope. You know, like it's like cool. We got it right. That's neat or whatever. But also it's dope that we're going to be able to experience the thing that we thought would be cool to be able to experience. So that I agree.
Also,
for sure.
Yes. I wonder if all of these, so like the thing that makes it look like that's happening is we saw several in the footage that we saw on in Hyrule on the ground. We saw like pads with a little sign, you know, like a foundation rather,
right?
Like foundation with a bunch of pieces of wood and some other bits and
kind of like
of
when you're moving in a new villager and New Horizons, like that kind of situation.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And then a little like sign next to it that makes it look like so. I mean, those could either be a bunch of houses or huts or something like that, or maybe it's just like these are projects for you to build. Like, hey, Link, could you build me a raft? I want to go see my sister, and she lives down the creek or something. I was
thinking that. I was thinking like that, especially with like little mini quests or whatever, where it's like I need to go over there, man. Like. I'm trying to move, but I don't have a boat, and I don't have money to pay for a boat. So make me a boat, and then you make them a boat, and then
they give you money anyway because that's how quests. Or they give you like a chicken, and then you fuse it to your shield, and you are invincible.
That's a fact.
Now we know. Yeah. But yeah, I was happy to see that in any case, just after we talked about it. But yeah, Ultra Hand, it's a neat thing, and it's one of those where like I'm curious to what depth I'm going to interact with it, because it kind of seems like there's so many options of things to do that I think what'll end up happening is I'll end up using it more in utility of like, I want to do this thing. And then there's some things around there, and then I'll put them together and do something, as opposed to like just mess around with it for creativity's sake. And some people are going to do that and do an amazing job with it. But like
that a lot.
I don't know. Yeah. Because like, and I could be wrong too. Like, I would love to do that. I just am curious if it'll feel a little daunting.
For me, it's just always like playing Breath of the Wild. And for anybody that's like watched me like stream it, like any given scenario, like I see an enemy that I've never fought before, or think it's going to be really hard to beat or whatever. My first thought isn't like, what's my best weapon? It's like, all right, what am I near that I can magnesis? Can I like grab this thing, and then if I drop that on that and I blow this up and I do this thing and I hit that and I stasis that thing, and then I, you know, like that's how my brain works with this game. So this is just like an even more like intricate version of that, where it's like, okay, well, the last enemy, what I did is I fused the rock with the stick like they did in the thing, but like, what if this time I fused the Korok leaf with the freaking sword or whatever, right? And like, what's gonna happen, you know, like it just gives me more puzzle pieces to make my own messed up puzzles with, and that's exciting.
Yeah, It's going to be really neat. And then, yeah, continuing on with that stuff, some of the next things we saw was up in Skyrule, we saw Construct, which is a new enemy, and we saw angry ones, and we also saw happy ones. And that is, we also kind of talked about that last week, that like it would be neat if there were people up in the sky area. I could be wrong, but I almost want to say that I talked about mechanical people up there. Oh, I did, because I was like, what if it was the people kind of like the, I mean, because we'd already seen some mechanical things that were up there, but it's like, what if there's, you know, nice ones as well? Which, for what it's worth, I think the first one we ever saw is going to be a nice one. I don't know. Somebody was like, yeah, this looks like maybe it is one of the Ranger constructs, but it looks bigger than that to me. So I don't really know. But it looks, something about it looks almost like maternal in some way, which, but I don't know. That's besides the point. But in any case, that one looks like a nice one, as opposed to the big cubes one that looks not nice because he's trying to hit you.
Yep.
But I think it's a neat thing where, like, obviously we now know officially that something Zonai is a thing up there.
Yeah.
And that's just fun confirmation. But like, they obviously set up this whole civilization of things, and there's some constructs that are tending to this world and keeping it ship shape and tip top.
And other ones,
and then there's other ones
we're being
protecting
oppressed. You're making us work on this thing. We don't like these people that you're trying to bring up here. This is our land.
Exactly.
I say that to say we're the villains in this game. For sure.
I mean, yeah, probably. Yeah. So yeah, that's what. Any thoughts on all that stuff and like just the sky area overall? Now that we've seen more of it.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really take the deep dive into like what even Zonai are. Like I've heard of it because of you and Olivia talking about that. But I almost not at all know what they are. I know there's like some sort of dragon association there. They like dragons a lot, apparently.
They do like dragons a lot. Yep.
That's all I know about that. So
I think basically the things that we seem to know is they were like a warrior tribe kind of a thing, but like also like the Sheikah were like a really, really advanced civilization, but they've like disappeared completely. So like we don't know where they went, and there's like barely any mention of them, if at all. Actually, I don't think at all in Breath of the Wild. The only references that there are is in the Creating a Champion book that came along with the like, you know, art book kind of thing for Breath of the Wild. And so in there they mention it, and then there's items that it kind of references and stuff from Breath of the Wild where it's like, yeah, this stuff is tied to them. It talks about like a warrior tribe, but you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, we just
is that
get
the kingdom
to find
that
out
they're talking about
them.
They could be talking about that kingdom.
What do you mean?
Like of the Zonai.
Oh, like the Tears of the Kingdom?
Maybe it's their tears.
Could very well be. I hadn't thought about that.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The more I think about it too, the more I think we have a playable Zelda. I think they are refusing to tell us anything about story besides Ganondorf is mad. But like, I think the whole, you know, Zelda disappearing or whatever, like, if it were simple, just like, we need to save Zelda, then I think we would know more than we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like right now it's like, what happened to Zelda? You know, which like that's a setup
like
for
showing
something
her
different.
a lot outside of the game, but not in the game at all.
Yeah.
So like, what? Why? You know, we've seen more of Zelda in the game in Breath of the Wild than we did or than we have in this game. But then at the same time, they went out of their way to have that, like, like I mentioned, it's going to be in the thumbnail, that whole thing, you know, and to like redesign her and all that stuff. Like, that's weird if she's just not going to be in the game. And we literally see her in the reveal for like, what is this game now? Like traveling with Link. So like, what the heck? You know?
Yep. It's a crazy old time. So the two other abilities that we saw are Recall and Ascend. Mm-hmm. And those are ones that, like, Ascend, I get the appeal of, and it's cool, but also I think I don't know the, like, full breadth. Like, I can't imagine
that there's anything else that you can do with it aside from the,
kinda, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine it in designed puzzles that'll be like, oh, it's Ascend, that's the thing that I need to do. So I can imagine it in that context, or in just like traversal, you know, like I want to get up there, I can ascend up there. It's a cool little visual along with it, and that's neat. But like, it's one of the, you know, like, I feel like in Breath of the Wild, the 4 Sheikah abilities, bombs, magnesis, Cryonis and Stasis. Yep. All of those, I mean, Cryonis a little bit less, but all of those like have far-flung implications, I feel like.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think Cryonis is pretty, especially compared to this, is pretty, like, deep.
Yeah. I think it is, but not on the surface, in the sense that, like, it looks from just looking at it, I'd be like, oh, you can make little ice thingies, and that's like all that I would have initially thought. And then there's all these other things. So I'm wondering with Ascend if it's something where, like, it you know, has more implications than I'm thinking of, and I assume probably, but I don't know. Just an interesting one.
We'll see.
And then Recall is a little bit the same, a little bit less so though, because like if we'd only seen it on, like, if something falls from the sky, you can recall it to go back to the sky. Then I'd be like, okay, is that cool? But you can use it on, seems like, just about anything, and that can have
Recall seems
huge
like
implications.
The stasis equivalent in this game.
And that'll be neat.
Which, that was another thing. It's funny how much people, when watching Bob play this game, it's funny how much people forget about the game. Because, like, I was telling Bob where he first went into the castle, and I was like, damn, I regret not telling you to get the upgraded stasis rooms. I mean, the upgraded rooms. And he's like, well, it's fine, because I wouldn't have did that anyway. And I'm like, yeah, but, like, you should have. And also, it's like, it's not as complicated as he was thinking. Like, he was thinking it was like going to be a Zelda thing, where it's like, all right, well, I got to do this quest and talk to this guy, and then I got to go over there and talk to him again, and then he's going to give me one of them, and then I got to go to a different thing, and then, but it's so easy. It's so easy to get the upgraded runes. But people are like, oh, you just got to, like, stasis this enemy, and I'm like, he can't, because he doesn't have the upgraded runes. So, like, I wonder if there's going to be some sort of equivalent to that, where it's like Recall is literally just recall upon, like, receiving it, but then there's a way to get Recall Plus, and then Recall Plus does something extra, you know?
Wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. It's fun. I'm so excited about this game, and, like, there's discourse going around right now of this is a $70 DLC, and I think that is
stupid,
a silly thing. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, like, if not to be this, but, like, if you don't have much imagination and only, like, what we see is like, well, that's it, that's the whole everything, that's the whole game, then, like, I'll, you know, I can believe that to a sense. But that's just not the case. You know, like, we just know. And, like, we can't 100% prove that there's not more than just the bit we've seen so far. Because technically speaking, it could be possible that they just showed us every single thing. And now we go there and, like, all those other ones in the sky, those aren't even real. It's just this one that they travel, you know, like, but that's silly. Like, that's not the case. So they, you know, they really have shown us as little as they can, as opposed to as much as they can. So I think that won't even be a conversation topic in 3 or 4 months, you know, after the game's been out for a bit. But it is just a funny thing, and, you know, is also a vocal minority for sure.
Yeah, it's very stupid. Because, like, if that was actually how marketing works, and like, games that are good, Breath of the Wild would have been like, what? So I just ride a horse the whole time and fight this one laser spider thing? That's all the whole game? That's the boss? That's the final boss of this video game? But like, turns out that good games are not marketed like that. Turns out that you don't see the final boss in the reveal trailer. Shocking to say.
Yeah. Shocking to say. Yeah, man. There. I mean, honestly, I could talk about this game for a lot longer, but we'll be talking about it for probably
it's true
a little bit to come, and then
I hope not.
It'll be.
I hope they don't talk about it anymore. Just like we have like a little over a month. Like, just freaking shut up about it and put it out when it's done, or it is done. When you are ready to release it, release it.
Yep. Yeah. So with that, let's see. We're on. Yeah, we can. We already did some of the Q&A, so we can talk about some of these news things before we go into Q&A. One thing, E3 officially canceled. I don't know much to say on it, but there it is.
Who would have thought? Man, E3, the staple of the industry. Gaming is going to implode. We can games will never happen ever again. This will be the last video game.
Yeah, probably so, honestly. Pikmin 4 also therefore canceled, and everything else. Metro Prime 4, get out of here.
Game doesn't exist anymore. How are we going to see? We haven't seen Metroid Prime 4 gameplay at E3. E3 doesn't exist anymore, so Metroid Prime 4 doesn't have gameplay. That's just how it works.
That's true. It is. We're just going to play a PNG and hope for the best.
Just going to play
but probably a new PNG because they canceled it and restarted it.
We can play the MP4. Like they did the animated logo. We can do that.
That's true. Yeah. That'll be a nice time. It is funny though, because like at this point, like even if E3 was not canceled and all that kind of stuff, like companies just don't need to or want to do stuff there anymore. Yeah. So like,
because they don't need, that's probably why they don't want to, because they finally realized they don't need to. So it's like, why am I paying this organization millions of dollars to do a thing that I can just like honestly charge other people to allow me to do?
Yeah.
I mean, they shouldn't, but they could. Like if they wanted to have their own like little fan fest or whatever, like they can do that. And as far as like media, they do it anyway. Like I've never been to E3, but I've been to plenty of press events and media, like previews and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be at E3. It turns out it's crazy.
Spend money to do something I could do on a Tuesday with 24-hour notice. Yeah. Alex said, "Yeah,
it's crazy."
Yeah. So it's out of here, and there's some things from that like hopefully the industry will find other means for, but I think it just will. Like now that it's gone, stuff like meetups and stuff like that need to happen or whatever, like those will happen. There's other events for media to go to, and like you said, media specific press stuff, and like people are still, now it's not like we're just waiting for June specifically to get all of our gaming information. It's just like it'll come.
We can have video game Christmas whatever now. It's cool. It's insane how that works.
And like honestly too, there was something cool in some ways about having like back-to-back presentations from different places and stuff, but also we cherry pick the good years, and there were plenty of years where it was like, "Ooh, that presentation sucked." Ooh, that presentation
and that's
sucked.
The thing.
That one sucks too. And like only one or two were good.
I don't even think people cherry pick the good years. I think people are lying to themselves about what to them was a good year, because I don't think that there has ever been a year where all of the presentations mattered ever. Like usually it's like two presentations are like, Xbox and Sony, or Nintendo and Xbox, or Nintendo and Sega, or whoever, like throughout the years. It's never more than 3 out of the 8, like we don't need all those events. We don't. It's cool in theory, but most of the days of E3 with people talking about live tweeting them and stuff, it's people complaining. That's not fun. It would be way cooler if, even if it's not all at once, we can be happy about the things that are happening and not spending our time complaining about the thing. Like sometimes funny memes come out of that, but I think ultimately it's way better for our culture if we spend our time talking about a thing that we're happy about than to complain about a thing that is bad because they had to rush to reach this arbitrary date to have video game Christmas. Like E3's dumb. It's not a good thing. It's not good.
And I'm sure it's not particularly fun. Like, you know, I mean, the little bits and pieces, the bits and pieces we've heard from like Kit and Krista on their podcast or whatever, talking about like the E3 crunch time that you're like preparing, you know, like get everything together, whatever. That, you know, now people don't have to do that as much anymore. And that's nice. And like, I don't know. Yeah. Just getting all the game trailers prepared and all that for a specific time is just not, you don't want to have to rush anything ideally, and everything could just be shown when it's supposed to be shown, and games come out when they're supposed to come out.
That said, I don't think that this is going to like end crunch or whatever. It just allows each individual entity to control when that is, you know?
Yes.
So like, worst case scenario, it will improve that, you know? Because they are not all forced to aim for the same thing. And some companies will be able to use their generally better culture to their advantage, you know? Like now with E3, everybody was kind of like pressured to do that. But now that it is gone, the companies that care about that sort of thing don't have to do that anymore, you know? And even if they have like an internal, like, this is when we want to have a presentation, and then like for whatever reason projects are running behind a little bit, they can push it back internally and then tell us about it. Like Alex said, 24 hours before, and they're like, yo, we were planning this event. I mean, obviously they don't even have to say that. They could just be like, new event tomorrow, be there, twitch.tv/ you know, like, it's that simple, you know?
It's true. It is indeed. And so yeah, E3's gone, and so are the 3DS and Wii U eShop. They're closed forever.
I don't know how we're alive right now and not doubled over in depression.
It's true.
How I go on not buying new games for our
I definitely watched like a couple videos that were like, buy these games and stuff. And there are a bunch of games, especially like first party games, that I would like to have access to at some point down the road, but I have so many other games that I have that for already that I do have access to that I would, that I would like to play, that by the time I'm done with all of those,
there will be new games added to that list.
That, and then also, like, if it's years enough away, honestly, we could probably just see the DS and 3DS games show up in some other form or fashion.
Like, even if by it's the like, time you get to it in your backlog, like, I don't know, it's going to be on the Switch Online library or whatever. Three generations from now. Like, again, this is just another case of people wanting to be mad at a thing, and it is an easy target to be mad at. Like, I wanted to get around to playing that game at some point eventually, maybe, and now I can't. Maybe eventually get around to that thing, and since I'm not the reason for that, I'm mad.
I feel like you're in three camps here, and it's either like you were never going to play these games anyway and aren't going to, like, I mean, basically our camp, where it's like, something, whatever, we'll figure it out down the road, so if there's any games. Yeah. So there's that. There's the like avid collector side, right, who wants to, have all these games and will play them and stuff like that, who probably did just cough up a decent amount of money to buy, like, here's the couple that I still want to get,
right,
and bought some games, and then also will probably just buy some games physically or whatever. And so there's that. And like, then it is a shame that like you can't then decide to get some other games down the road, but like probably you don't necessarily want a lot of the other games anyway. Or like you were never gonna play them anyway, and you're just mad because like it's just something to be fun to be mad at, but like you weren't gonna get them otherwise you would have gotten them. So, but that said, I'm, and on that one, that probably that kind of person, there's a good chance you're just going to emulate it anyway. So like, at this point, like if there's no legal way to get it, then like probably you'd feel even better about doing that at that point. So like, that's probably what's going to happen. I'm not condoning that so much as saying like, probably that's just what'll
that's just what's going to happen. Yeah,
there you go.
And also, I still find that like attitude kind of weird. The whole thing of like, well, they won't let me have it, so I'm going to take it. It's weird. It's weird. Like, it's not the same thing as like needing to steal food, but people treat it like that though. Like people are, well, they're not letting me have it and I need it, so I'm taking it. And, you know, it's weird. It's weird. Do what you want to do. Like, I don't care. But I do think it is weird.
And like, you know, to be honest, because same thing is true of other physical games, like pre 3DS and Wii U and I guess like Wii Shop games. You know, if you want to play N64 games, then like the way to do that, well, I mean, I guess there's Virtual Console or whatever, but like, you know, is you just have to find an N64 and find the game somewhere, and like that's just the way that works too. Is like there's like physical games is the way to do that, or at this point there's other means to do it as well. But all that to say, it's just, you know, is what it is. The shops are done, and so now we don't really have to talk about those things anymore. But I mean, at this point, now Nintendo can one day decide to bring those games forward or something if they can, and then people will be, I was going to say happy, but some people are going to be mad anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's silly. So that's that. But, you know, we might not be playing 3DS or Wii U games, but maybe we're playing some other games. Such as, are you playing any games, AJ?
I'm playing Pokemon. There's like, in Pokemon Home, there's a Pokedex in Pokemon Home, and it tells you how many of your Pokemon you have and stuff like that. I'm missing like 4. So I've been trying to get around to
Do you know which 4 they are?
Yes. Yep, because the Pokedex tells me. They're all Pokemon that like I can get. I have all that. I have access to. It's Pokemon Sword. It's literally in Pokemon Sword. It's not even like I got to go back. It's just I have to replay the DLC for the other Pokemon that I didn't get. Like the I picked Reggie Draco. I need Reggie Alecki. So I need that one. I got to get the other horse. And then I forgot what the other 2 Pokemon are, but it's all stuff that I can like pretty easily get. It just takes me replaying DLC, and I didn't do it yet. But I'm almost done with that. I've been doing more draft league stuff, training Pokemon that I didn't like get a chance to train up yet. I made some because we opened up the free agency. So I swapped out some Pokemon, so that means I had to train new Pokemon, and then that brought up new strategies and stuff like that. I'm playing on the ladder and testing stuff out and seeing how well stuff works, because like my whole goal, like it seems like there's one like common thing that most people seem to be doing in the draft, where like they build a team and then they use all 12 of the Pokemon, or as many of the 12 Pokemon as they can, to have like individual like gimmicks. Where it's like, oh, well, you're not going to expect this or this, right? And that's what these two Pokemon or these 3 Pokemon or whatever it is. But my approach has been, I want all my Pokemon to have a reason to be next to all of my other Pokemon, and they accomplish something together. Like, it doesn't matter if I pair my Quackable with my Meowscarada or my Grafaiai or my freaking Annihilate or whatever it is. Like, every combination possible, I want to be able to do something. So I've been working on that and trying to make sure that like all my Pokemon are like that. I have the core 6 that I've been messing with. I feel like I accomplished that. Now I'm trying to work with the other 5 Pokemon or whatever that I have. So I've been working on that, training up Pokemon, testing different EV spreads and like movesets and stuff like that to try to get to that point. I was doing ranked, but now I can't do ranked anymore because the ranked season is over until tomorrow. So got to get to Master Ball rank again, which I think is going to be like easy. It's usually easy. I tanked my win-loss ratio last season because of me testing Pokemon that just weren't even EV trained or anything like that, just to be like, I wonder if typing works on this and like that sort of thing. But this time, like, I'm going to be in Master Ball Ring very fast, I think, and my win-loss ratio will be a lot better. So nice. I've been doing that.
And Draft League is in a week? 2 weeks?
A week or 2. Nice. You need to double check that, but yeah.
And that'll be happening on Twitch to watch that, right?
Yes. Yep. And then I'm sure we'll do like recap shorts or something. Like, this is what happened this week. This person battled this person, and this person won. And then this person battled this person, and this person won. So,
I think that when you said this person won, you meant to say an AJ won, right?
I didn't get to my battle yet. I was naming everybody else's battles first.
There it is. Nice, yeah. I've been playing basically nothing, so it's been a busy time, but a little bit more Live Alive, tiny little bit more. So I've finished 3 of the chapters or 3 of the stories, and I started on the 4th one. So more to come, but it's a good little time, and I enjoy it quite a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. Otherwise, anything else you're playing before we go into Q&A?
Smash Brothers. So I've come to the conclusion that basically what my streaming schedule is, but it's annoying to announce or be able to announce in a easy way, is like right now every other week instead of doing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I want to do Monday and Tuesday and then someday during the weekend, because Wednesday is when the coin box happens, and the coin box is the easy tournament for me to enter. And right now I'm cursed. I have the 3-2 curse. I stay positive, but I still freaking like get 192nd or something like that out of 800, and I'm over it, man. I'm trying to at least get out of pools. Like I get right there. I get right to the end of pools, and then I freaking lose, and it's stupid. But I don't know if I'm gonna do it this week. I need to go through my I record at least what has been happening, and this wasn't an intentional thing, but I usually record every match after the first round, because the first round ends up being easy, but I don't go into it knowing that. I just go into it and it's like, well, that was free, and I'm glad I didn't record it, because there's no questions that I have about that, because it was easy. But I want to go through what I have recorded and cut it up and look for the matches that I thought were harder, and then watch some McQuid and then see his thoughts on that. So I'll probably do that at some point this week, maybe.
Nice.
But yeah, that's been that.
Nice.
I'm tired of it. I'm trying. I want to get to at least like double digits.
I believe in you. I mean, it feels like even just going 4-2 would make a pretty big jump,
even
right?
Then I've done 4-2. I want 64th. That's my next goal. I want 64th.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I'll be happy with always going 64th until I'm annoyed with that, and then I go there, because I like the goal initially for, I feel like most people, or the realistic goal, because obviously there's some people that are delusional and they're like, my first tournament, I want to win it, like that sort of thing. But the initial goal is to not go negative. I have not gone negative in years at this point. Knock on wood. I usually matter of fact, my first tournament I went 2-2, so like that's like as neutral as you can get. But I want to get out of pool, so I want to at least go 5-2, like I want to go 5-2, 6-2, and then that also and even then that depends on when I go to losers, but usually recently I have not been going to losers early. My habit when I was going 2-2 all the time, it was because I would play my first round, and usually I would either lose then or immediately after that, and then lose again. After winning one match in losers, or one additional match in losers. But now I win my first 2 rounds in winners, and then I lose, and then I win another round, and then I lose. So that sort of thing. So I'm trying to break that pattern.
Yep. I believe in you. I think you'll get first next time.
That would be cool. That'd be $3,000 extra dollars in my pocket.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That'd be nice.
It's true.
So yeah, that's the games we're playing. And now let's Q&A it up.
It's true.
And here it goes. We've got a little bit of backlog questions now, because there were already 2 that were before we recorded last week, and then the ones from last week, and then the ones from this week. So here we go. M. Skelton asks, what is your favorite anime that you would recommend everyone watch?
Yu Yu Hakusho. I've been watching Yu Yu Hakusho again I don't know how many times I've watched Yu Yu Hakusho, but Yu Yu Hakusho is probably the one anime like from my childhood that retroactively I'm not like, this show is not that good. Which, I mean, honestly, for me, the only one that I really feel like that is Dragon Ball Z. Like, I think Naruto is good, but people complain about Naruto because filler or whatever, but I think that's stupid. But Yu Yu Hakusho is really good. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's good.
I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. It's good.
I don't even know.
And the entire show is on YouTube. I don't think officially, so don't tell Funimation, but it's just straight up on YouTube, and it like cuts out the intro and the end, so like it feels like super short because it like kind of is. Like every episode ends up being like 18 to like 20 minutes or whatever. It's pretty easy to watch. It's a good show. You should watch it.
That's fun. What's the premise of it? Is it so it's not like superhero-y or like.
So
like, I guess there's
the like initial premise is this kid named Yusuke Urameshi. He gets hit by a car and he dies. He's like a punk, like, you know, like he's like a mean kid. He's like a bully at his school or whatever. And he died because he was trying to save a little kid that was almost going to get hit by a car, and then the spirit world's like, what the heck? That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to be a terrible guy. You were going to go to hell, but you did that thing, and that threw a wrench in everything. So like, you can't die. That's messed up. You did a good thing. You were turning around. So they gave him a chance to like get his life back and stuff like that. Like literally, not like redeem yourself, which like kind of he's redeeming himself, but also literally being revived so that he could be alive again. And that's the premise initially, and it grows from there. I don't really want to go farther because it grows from there.
Makes sense.
So it's a good show. You should watch it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, from the sounds of it, good recommendation is what I mean. This is a pretty obvious one, I guess. Just like, I don't watch a ton of anime. There was a while that I did, and then I haven't had time, I think is probably what it is.
Yeah.
But probably My Hero, I feel like it's a cliche answer at this point, but it's still just
all my answers are going to be cliche because I don't really. I mean, I don't dislike anime, but I can't actively say I like anime. You know, like there's anime that I watch, not necessarily in spite of them being anime, but I feel like people that describe themselves as like being anime fans, like seek out new anime that are anime for the sake of watching new anime. But me, I'm like, it's just all a show to me. It's like, is this a good show? Yeah. All right, cool, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that end up being the thing too, because like those are the ones that get recommended to you, right? You know, like the popular ones. Obviously, people are going, you should watch One Piece or friggin' My Hero, or to a lesser extent.
And I think like
still there, Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, I think for somebody starting out, especially on anime, I feel like My Hero is nice because it's in the like superhero thing that, you know, is pretty popular nowadays, so that's helpful for one thing. But then also it jumps into it pretty quick. Like if you watch 2 episodes, then you get the idea, and it doesn't like take for like, because One Piece I've heard is like this amazing anime, but there's like 1,000 episodes or whatever, and so it's like, by episode 161 you're in it, and I'm like, okay.
And so there's going to be people that push back against that, but it's not like in an RPG kind of way where it's like the game's not fun until you get 20 hours in. Right. It's like the payoff hits hard around this point because there's so much like world building and foreshadowing and stuff like that like sinks in at a certain point where it's like, oh shoot, it's like that. And then okay, well, I wonder what they're going to do with 100 episodes from now, you know, like that sort of thing. That said, I don't really, because I have seen
watch One Piece. I've seen probably like 20-ish episodes of One Piece, I think. And I enjoyed them. I think I just like, if I had a lot of time to devote to anime, I would probably just be watching it, have it on in the background, like, you know, whatever. But each individual episode, at least from the get-go, doesn't feel like a ton of payoff. From my experience. For me,
I agree.
Yeah. So, but I would also say, so My Hero on one side, although I will say the first season especially was very like flashbacky kind of heavy, not even flashback, but like, you know, the thing like, sort of flashbacks. And so there's that. On the other side, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I've watched like the first half of that, and then I stopped for a while and then came back and was like, oh no, I don't remember anything that's going on. But it's really, really good. I just got lost because I forgot. So those were probably the two recommendations that I'd give.
Watch Yu Yu Hakusho is really good.
Yu Yu Hakusho. Yeah. No, I'll try and check that out sometime. Falcon asked, hey Falcon, will we get another Scribblenauts game? All caps lock.
Maybe. I feel like Scribblenauts, it's been long enough where that's like a revival thing. You know? Like, I don't think it's gonna happen soon. But I think eventually they're like, oh yeah, people like this game, right? Here's a new one, and it will not be good. That's my prediction.
I mean, for what it's worth, I'm looking at the release timeline, and it was 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2018.
I know there's at least one on Switch.
And it's, I think the 2018's Scribblenauts Showdown was a new one on Switch, and I think they probably re-released some of the older ones on Switch, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the Scribblenauts Mega Pack is on there, which has 4 and some of the games. But yeah, at this point, I know that the newest Scribblenauts game, Scribblenauts Showdown, was like not received well, and it seems like an idea that like it doesn't have to have run out of ideas, but depending on the developer, maybe it's run out of ideas for them. You know, just based on the reception I saw for looking at the Metacritics, it's 79, 81, 86, 73, 71, and then the newest one 47.
No.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it feels like you said, it would be a revival at this point. But maybe one that's, you know, its time has come due.
We'll see. But I think that if it happens, it'll be bad, but we'll see.
Yeah. So there it is. Mike Mick asked, there's a rumored 3D Donkey Kong coming for the Switch successor. LOL. Do you believe DK has the sale power to launch a console?
LOL.
We got to talk about this one a little bit last week, and that was when the episode cut off. So knock on wood for that. But LOL, yes, go on.
We're working on a video for that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all I'll
Agreed.
say. But we're gonna video on it. It'll happen soon. I want to make the Mario movie. I don't know if we're gonna make the Mario movie. But we'll be within a week or so of when the Mario movie comes out. Is my hope.
Yep. I'm hoping. Yeah. We're working on it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say in general, I think it has a lot of star power that it just hasn't gotten to tap into quite yet.
I mean, not to go too far into like stuff that we want to talk about in the video.
Yeah.
Donkey, like this whole thing exists because of Donkey Kong. You know, like Nintendo is Nintendo right now because of the name Donkey Kong. You know, like obviously it was Mario, but it was a Donkey Kong game, you know? So like if it can launch the Empire, I think it can launch a console.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and also, you know, it's just like if the thing that, and I feel like it has been just because of, you know, based on comments we've gotten in the past on videos, but like if the criticism of 3D Donkey Kong as a concept is just from DK64, then that's just not, that's not a worthwhile critique, you know, because that's a criticism of that game, absolutely. But as a concept as a whole,
not every 3D Donkey Kong game has to be. Spoilers for the video. Matter of fact, I very very early on in our conversation of like how we wanted to structure. We're both working on this video. If that wasn't clear, my first thing that I was saying was like I want to steer as far away from Donkey Kong 64 as we can because I feel like if and when they would do something like this, that's probably what they would want to do, you know, like in a Breath of the Wild kind of way, where it's like Zelda wasn't necessarily in a bad place, you know, like Zelda games still sold fine, but they knew that there was very like loud outcry about the Zelda formula and like, you know, like the Ego Raptors like sequel-itis video about Zelda was not a unpopular sentiment, you know. And Nintendo knew that, so they went in with the goal to like address those criticisms and fix them. I think that a similar situation is possible for Donkey Kong. So, well, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah, there it is. Good thoughts. RP asked, rank these restaurants from best to mid least. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Popeyes. 3 foods. So, okay, I will say, I think I'm going to just have to assume these restaurants when they've done a good job, because there's a Wendy's that was around the corner from my office that always did a phenomenal job. And every time, like, I'd order a kind of complicated thing, they'd get it perfectly right. It was like fresh and good. And like, so 2 thumbs up to like, that's my standard for like, when I'm thinking of these restaurants is when they do well, as opposed to there's been plenty of times that I've also gone to a different Wendy's where it's
terrible.
They've done a terrible job. Yeah. So it's like, is that representative of the restaurant as a whole? So I'm going to say, taking them at their best, what's the best to worst?
I'll say that I'm sure this is going to be a controversial opinion, but I don't really like McDonald's. Like it is the easiest one for me to put in last place, because there's nothing that I can think of at McDonald's that I'm like, I want to go to McDonald's for that. Especially not food, like maybe ice cream or something, if it was between these, I would probably go to McDonald's for ice cream. And also McGriddles are good. But other than that,
true.
I don't like nothing from McDonald's. I'm not going to McDonald's for any reason other than like, I guess we're here, So like that's the easy one to put in last place. But all these other like Burger King and Wendy's and Popeyes, like I think the best one easily is Popeyes. But like the other two, like I would only go there for like specific things, and it's not even like they're the first option for those things, Like if I'm going to Wendy's, I'm getting like spicy chicken nuggets. But like there's better places. I would go to Popeyes before I would go to Wendy's for something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't go to Popeyes very often just because there's not like a super convenient one. But in college, we had one on campus that I would order the 6-piece chicken nugget meal or whatever it was, and they would give me like 11 chicken nuggets, or I'd order their 12 and they'd give me like 16. So I'd always order the 6-piece because then you get 11. It's just more bang for your buck comparatively. Yep. But that was so great. And I loved that a lot because it was free food and I'm in college. So, take what you can get. Besides that, I really haven't been to Popeyes that much, but I did I like seasonings good and like fries were pretty good and stuff from what I remember too. So I don't have a ton of strong opinions there, but I would say, and then also I worked at Burger King for 2.5 years. So that factors in a way that like, there's a weird, like I ate it all the time while I was there because I got free food because I was a floor manager for a lot of that time. So, it's weird because it's like too familiar in some ways, but that doesn't necessarily make it bad. So I think for me, I'd probably put Wendy's at the top, and then even though I don't go there very often, probably Popeyes next. And then I think Burger King and then McDonald's. But I don't dislike McDonald's. Like I go there probably more than any of the other places because it's the one that's actually open late. And if it's like, well, it's midnight and we just like get a snack or whatever, right, I'll get like a little cheeseburger and fries. But it's very much like it's not like this is good food that I'm particularly like, loving it. It's just like, it's a cheeseburger and fries, Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the order I'd put it in. Wendy's, Popeyes, Burger King, McDonald's. But if I were to go to Popeyes more, I could see that being up at the top as well.
I just think Popeyes is the closest one. It's kind of like how people like try to debate like what's better, Five Guys or In-N-Out or whatever, right? And it's like that's a bad comparison because In-N-Out is like way closer like trying to be McDonald's, and it's better at being McDonald's as far as like the food tasting good than McDonald's. Yeah. like Five Guys is better, but Five Guys is also $20, you know, to get a meal, you know. So like I would hope so. Granted, Popeyes isn't that expensive, but I think that is like closer to the caliber of food that we're talking here. Like it's sure. It's farther away from being conveyor belt food. Like if we're talking conveyor belt food, it's like the conversation is limited to Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Wendy's is the best one out of the conveyor belt foods. And then Burger King, but kinda, and then McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I would do it.
And I think, like, honestly, the only leg up that Burger King has in some ways is it just has a little bit more variety than McDonald's has, where like McDonald's used to have more stuff. And I think, they've just slimmed down to like, there's these burgers, one chicken sandwich with some things on it. And like, even there's probably, I think there's 3 burgers, one chicken sandwich that has like some different options, and then smaller burgers. And that's like basically it, which is they don't have salads. They don't have anything. Not that, like Wendy's does pretty good salads, but I don't know. Yeah. What an interesting thing, you know? There it is. Mega Man asked, why is it March, nearly April already? And you know what? For you, Mega Man, it is April already.
True.
And for us, it is in just a couple hours.
True.
And yeah, that is crazy.
It's insane.
We're already quarter of the way through the year.
Time is fake after 2020.
Yep.
It's fake. Doesn't exist.
Yeah. And then, last question, because we already did all the Tears of the Kingdom ones, was M. Skelton asked, if you had to ask each person who follows you one question, what would it be?
It's always.
And I assume this is the same question for everybody.
I would assume so. I think it would take way too long to do. Like
I figured. Yeah.
I mean, it's always the same thing for me. It's like, not so much what do you want to see, but what have you liked that you want more of, but better? And how do you think, like, how do you think it could be made better? You know? Because I don't want to get into the thing of like, me personally, I hate when people that make things like completely model or even try to like get close to modeling the thing that they make off of what people that watch them like, because then it just becomes a parody of itself. But I am interested to know in like the what we should focus our efforts on, because a lot of like what we make and like when we're thinking about we should make this blah blah is because we're like, well, I don't know, maybe people will like this, but if we know for sure that people like these 3 things or whatever, we can always have some variation of those 3 things in the chamber and then introduce stuff in a more controlled way that's like, oh, okay, and here's this other new idea to go along with the established things that we know you like, you know? That would be the question, I guess, or questions that I would ask.
Yeah. I interpreted this question a little differently, just as like they're asking us Q&A. What if we were to ask
Q&A?
You know, people?
I mean, that would be my Q&A either way.
And,
that's the question at all.
Well said. I mean, honestly, this is dumb, but like if it was just like, and probably just like, hey, how's it going? Like, just genuinely on a, like, you know, if it's on a one-on-one basis, like say we went to PAX and M. Skelton walks up and it's like, hey, how's it going? You know, just genuinely asking how things are. And I think that's probably it. So like, maybe a bit obvious.
The easy thing is like, what was the favorite thing that you played? What are you looking forward to playing? Exactly. And stuff like that. So like, it depends on the context too, you know, like
it does. Yeah. Because also if it's like, you know, you're streaming and somebody shows up and you wanted to ask them like, hey, how are you, you know, like, you playing any games recently? You know, those kinds of things. But it always, I think in this kind of context where you're asking a lot of people at once, it's got to end up being a really, really broad thing. Just where the onus is on the person that's answering the question to get as specific or not specific as they want, because like you don't want to pressure everybody into like, how's your relationship with your father or something, you know? Like,
I think that's also why my immediate thought is to ask them about like the things that we make, because that's the common denominator that we know that they have.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like you follow us for, I would assume, because you like the videos that we make, so it's easy to ask like, okay, what do you like about them? You know. And what would you like to see us do more or less of?
Yeah. I mean, and for what it's worth, we would love to know that.
Yeah, at all times, literally all the time. Yeah. I'm curious about that.
Yep. I mean, and I want to find a good place to. I mean, we've talked about before, like some variety of on Patreon, but asking people like, here's these couple videos. Which one do you want to see next? And like, you know. Best idea is that like patrons will be the ones answering that, but like where funcally do we do that?
And exactly, when, like, what's the cadence of that? And
exactly. So that's the thing. But in the meantime, we're done. This podcast is over, and go home, everybody.
True, you're probably already home.
Unless you're already home, in which case,
you're like on your way to work, or you're like, I don't know, mowing your lawn or something. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah. Tell a friend. Tell us, what do you want to see? Also, what did you have for breakfast? Goodbye.
Bye.